Now, we've had a number of discussions about LGBTQ plus books available in libraries for 12 to 17 year olds, and we've heard two sides of that argument up to this point. I suppose we've been contacted by Jana London, who has been campaigning against these books in the libraries, and she wanted to tell us why. Good morning to you, Jana, and thank you indeed for joining us on the programme this morning. Why are you against these books?
Yeah, there's really two reasons. I'm founder of the Natural Women's Council. I work very closely with a group of about a couple hundred women, grandparents, therapists, teachers and lawyers, as well as with the Irish Education Alliance, Lawyers for Justice, Parents' Rights Alliance. And
the Natural Women's Council?
Natural Women's Council.
What's a natural woman?
Well, a natural woman, I was born a natural woman. I love my body. I'm happy being a woman. And the other part of natural is the natural health perspective. A lot of people in my group, we do believe in treating ourselves and our families natural health remedies, and we've managed to stay very healthy over the last few years, standing strong, tall and happy. So two different places.
But you obviously believe that there's unnatural women then, do you?
I don't believe that a man identifying as a woman will ever be a woman. Anyone born with a penis, in my eyes, is not a woman. You can't change biological sex.
But you can.
Can you?
Well, you decide to respect it or not, but yes, absolutely you can.
Let me ask you a question. How many men who I've identified as a woman and gone through, whether it's the medical or surgical procedure, how many of those men have gone on to conceive and deliver a child? I don't believe there's any.
Right. So you don't respect their wish to be identified as a woman?
They can identify how they want, but it doesn't mean they're ever going to be a natural-born woman just because...
So when you say they're unnatural, there's something weird about them, is there?
I never said weird.
Yeah, but
what I'm saying is a woman is born, not worn.
But when you say somebody is unnatural, it's derogatory.
Okay, well, I don't believe a man identifying as a woman will ever be a woman. You can't change someone's DNA, their bones. If you put 100 men on an island and they all became ashes and dust.
So you're calling you're being it's the same point. You're losing. You're being derogatory. You're saying they're unnatural.
Biology.
But you're saying they're unnatural, which is derogatory, isn't it?
If that's how you feel. But let me ask you a biological question before we talk about the books, which is why I'm on. If you put 100 men on a remote desert island, their bodies rotted, became ash, and an archaeologist came and identified those bones, they could tell that every one of those 100 bone sculptures were born a man. There's no bone of those men on that island that rotted that's ever going to be a woman bone. That's biology. So I never used the word weird. I said that once you're a woman, you're always a woman. And once you're born a man, you're never going to change your sex and become a natural-born woman.
Yeah.
So you're unnatural. And a man's born with a penis. Even my children know that.
So you are unnatural, which by definition is weird and derogatory.
I don't believe it's derogatory to say someone cannot change their sex. I believe in biology. I studied pre-med college, and I'm a fan of biology. But we can differ on that view. But I never said the word weird, so please don't put that into my mouth.
Well, if you say somebody is unnatural, why am I wrong to interpret that to mean you're saying they're weird?
Unnatural doesn't mean weird. If you look up the Cambridge Dictionary definition. But I do believe we're diverting. But I don't believe a woman is worn. I believe a woman is born. And just because of somebody.
But you've started a group saying we're natural, and the point of calling your group natural is to highlight how you feel other people are unnatural.
I also mentioned natural health. I'm a natural-born woman, and I will never be shamed for being a natural-born woman. I will never be shamed for conceiving my child, delivering my child, breastfeeding my child. And I don't believe in erasing the words woman or mother as well. Thank goodness that was reversed.
Why did you not become a transgender?
Why did I not?
Yeah.
Gosh, it never even crossed my mind. Why would I? I'm happy to be born as a woman, and I have a boy who's happy as a son and a girl who's happy as a daughter. I don't know where the social contagion even started with making people feel that they're born in the wrong body.
It's just I thought you'd read these books.
Oh, I read a lot of these books. Yes,
and you didn't decide to be a transsexual after reading the book?
No, goodness. No. I'm very happy in the
And would you expect your son or daughter to end up transsexual after reading a book?
I believe this is the question I thought a lot about, is people say, if children read these books, I was on the radio with Adrian Kennedy recently, and he said, do you think children can be influenced? And my response, absolutely, children can be influenced. My little kids, age 4 and 7, still believe in the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and Santa Claus. So if they were to read a book that reaffirmed that a boy can become a girl and a girl can become a boy, and some of these books are down to age 5 and age 12, absolutely that child could be influenced. And you may have seen the Irish Times.
But you couldn't.
Sorry?
But you couldn't.
Couldn't?
You couldn't be influenced.
I wouldn't influence, and I would certainly hope that if someone told my boy he can become a girl, that he wouldn't be influenced. But not every child is as strong-rooted, and not every child is taught to love their body. You may have seen the Irish Times article last October that said up to 90% of people in Ireland seeking gender services may have been autistic. So if you have a class of 30 children, what child do you think might be led down the path of wanting to change their body into the opposite sex?
Well, I'm
vulnerable children.
I'm not sure that anybody would, after reading a book, if that wasn't the way they were thinking in the first place, given your response, because you've told me very clearly you wouldn't be influenced. You're intelligent enough to know yourself, to understand yourself and understand your body, and not to be influenced after reading a book to suddenly become a man. Why would anybody do that after reading a book if it's not the way they feel?
That's a really good question, and I actually just came from 3 days at the GenSpect conference in Killarney. And
the what conference, sorry?
The GenSpect conference down in Killarney. There was a conference that was held over 3 days. It was a phenomenal conference. It was hosted by GenSpect. Stella O'Malley is a psychotherapist, and they had about 20 experts from around the world fly in. And the most alarming thing that I heard and saw at the conference were those six children, adolescents, who at one point in their life thought they were born in the wrong body. They went through the change through puberty blockers, which have long-term damage. Some of them with it can cause osteoporosis, etc. Most of the children going through the puberty blockers and sex changes will never have an orgasm or normal sex life. Those children made the decision to go through the change. They later regretted it, realizing, actually, chopping off my breasts or my penis and taking chemical puberty blockers didn't make my problems go away. Now they're detransitioning, going through the reverse to go back to their birth sex. So there's such a high rate of children who are influenced, and it's the vulnerable children. You asked why wouldn't I want to be influenced?
I never heard of GenSpect before, but I can see that it's a group that opposes gender affirming care.
For children, they don't believe that children should go through puberty blockers because they're irreversible. One man at the conference spoke. He's a gay man. There was lots of the group, a lot of people who were from our gay community there, and one man really mad. He said puberty blockers given to children with some of these books, and I'll talk about one alarming book, teaching kids how to order puberty blockers online and how to inject themselves. One man spoke up and said, in his childhood, puberty was actually what was the solution for him, whereas puberty blockers is actually stopping the natural solution of natural puberty.
Okay, so, all right, okay.
It's a very dangerous path for children to go on. They're irreversible.
Why do you oppose sex education?
Oh, I don't oppose sex education at all.
Do you not?
Not at all, no. I went through sex education as a child, and I'm already teaching my age 4 and 7 about how the body will change because they ask. I believe in biological sex education. What I strongly oppose is what's coming down, which is promoted by by HSE and some trans rights groups like TENI and Belong To, teaching down to age 5 that in primary school, this is going to propose to come into primary school, teaching a boy he can become a girl who can become a boy. Biologically, you can't change sex, and as a society, we should be leaving these regressive ideas behind, not reinforcing them in children. We should never.
What if a child? What if one of your children decided that they were born in the body of the wrong gender, and they wanted to explore those thoughts, or any child for that matter, and there was nowhere for them to explore those thoughts except to look on the internet?
Yep, the internet, that's right. So I guess my answer to that is twofold. Is one, there will be a very small minority of children who go through gender confusion in their life. Most of them grow out of it, especially with the normal puberty progression. But what if the child was confused? Maybe they were on TikTok. Maybe they were seeing those doctors promote.
Yeah, maybe they should learn about it in school, should they not?
They should not learn about. They should not be have this ideology taught in school, because a child will believe anything a teacher tells them. A teacher is authority.
These are the facts of life.
But a girl shouldn't be taught they can become a boy, and a boy.
Why not? Because they can.
They can't. They can't change sex.
But they can.
It can't be changed.
Of course they can.
They can't. How many men get pregnant after the change, put on a dress, lipstick, and get cut out? How many men get pregnant when that happens? Not many, I know. Yeah,
but they can, regardless.
Okay, well, we can disagree that sex can be changed. Biological sex cannot be changed.
Well, they can. I mean, when you're not going to disagree. You may describe it whatever you want. That they can change their anatomy so that they're of a different gender, and that's something that people can do relatively simply these days. And if young people are aware of that and they're interested in finding out about it, why should they be looking on TikTok or elsewhere? Why should they not get the information from people who you would have trust in?
And who should if a child has a mental, gender dysphoria is actually listed as a psychiatric condition. So if a child has a psychiatric condition, whether it's gender dysphoria or let's use anorexia, an eating disorder. Yeah. If a child has an issue with, they think they're in the wrong body, or maybe they think they're really fat and they have anorexia, they should be talking to their parents, working with their family unit and experts. But they're not equipped to teach a child they can change their sex.
Well, what if the child is lesbian, attracted to the same sex?
Yeah, what if they are? That happened. There's nothing wrong with being gay. There's nothing wrong with them. I was a tomboy. There was nothing wrong with a girl wanting to ride. I rode quad bikes through the sand dunes, mud running, and I didn't play with dolls. I was a masculine child as a girl, and I know many men I was friends with who were feminine. There's nothing wrong with that.
But why not educate children about sex?
Sex is okay. I agree with biological sexual education, but what I don't agree with is creating the social contagion across the schools that children can change. We should not reaffirm that they're born in the wrong body. Children should be taught to be kind. My two children have never read sexually explicit books talking about the things in the library. My children have never been made to think they're born in the wrong body. They're the two most kind, clever humans I've ever met at age 4 and 7.
So when you're that could be a different situation, I suppose. But when you oppose the SPHE curriculum changes, is it just the transgenderism that you're opposed to?
Absolutely. It's back to, if someone was anorexic and said, I think I'm fat, you would never say, you're right, actually, let's go give you that gastric bypass surgery and just stop eating. You just wouldn't do that. What you would try to do is teach the child one-to-one in their family environment, or working with a therapist or an expert. You would work with them one-to-one, and most of these children actually, and the ones we met at these transitioners, they realize when they go through puberty, and they realize in their life that may have been... Well,
because there's such prejudice in the world, I'm not sure how many children would be forthcoming with those thoughts. But when you oppose the library books, is it just the books that relate to transgenderism that you're opposed to?
No, there's two sets of library books, and unfortunately I've read too many the last few months. I think I need bleach to pour in my head. There's two different types. There's one that are very highly explicit books. Some of the Juno Dawson ones, very highly explicit. There's other books talking about, I don't even want to call them books. I actually think they're more like dirty manuals fetishizing children. Why does a 12-year-old need to know about fisting and anal sex and blowjobs and handjobs at age 12? So the sexualized content
because
is
one
sex. Issue. What's the age of consent in Ireland?
The age of consent is 17, but children have sex, and children are interested in sex, and children are looking at sex all of the time, very graphic sex on their phones.
The phone, that's another argument we can talk about as well. I have strong views on that issue. So the books, they're dirty manuals sex fetishizing children. For example, at age 12, maybe they ask about sex. But I don't believe that fisting and anal sex and eating poo should be part of teaching a child about sex. When my children are ready and learn about sex, I will be teaching them that sex happens between two adults.
Okay, so you're opposed to sex education?
Not sex education.
That's what people do. Whether you do it or not, that's what people do, and that's what sex education is. If you're going to talk about sex, if that's what people do,
I disagree strongly. I'm almost I'm in my mid-40s, and I can categorically say that I have never even heard of this until I read these books, and I don't.
Sorry, you're breaking up. I'm sorry, you're breaking up. What's that?
Oh yeah, I said I'm in my mid-40s, and I first learned about fisting through reading these books in the 12-year-old section.
All right. So did you take it up after reading it?
No, I don't want somebody's fist in my bottom. Thank you.
Okay, some people do, but I mean, they decide that themselves whether they've read a book or not.
We shouldn't be teaching age 12. This actually, let me quote the Child First Act. There's two pieces which this does clearly violate. The Children's First Act of 2015. You're probably familiar with that, yeah?
Please don't quote that, because you know as well that you know that a child under 12 is placed in the child membership category in the absence of parental consent.
These books are in the age 12 section. I've confirmed with the library that a child who's 12 with their library card can go in and take these books out. I have that in writing. Age 12 can take these books out, talking about the things that I just referenced. That is not age appropriate. And when you said, please don't quote...
Why is it not age appropriate if it's sex? So you say you're for educating children about sex, but when...
Sex is different than talking about these fetishes that people have. Fetishes like anal sex and fisting and blowjobs and handjobs for age 12 is in no way appropriate. Sex, that is not sex in the eyes of biological sex in a respectful relationship. That should not be normalized for age 12. Who would want to normalize such things for age 12? I know some groups would. The word starts with T and G. We won't mention that, but I was going to quote the Child First Act, which you dismissed, and it's the law that you voted on as an Irish person. So why can't we quote the law and how?
Okay, quote the Child Act. Yeah.
Thank you. So there's two pieces of the Children's First Act of 2015. It was passed a referendum by the Irish people. The first one is under sexual abuse. And under sexual abuse, it says, quote, it's the third bullet down, showing sexually explicit material to children, which is often a feature of the, quote, grooming process by perpetrators of abuse. Oh,
yeah, you're pushing it down. That's why I said not to quote it, because these are books that are selected by people who have expertise in the area. The librarians, in accordance with each library service collection development policy, there are people who are looking at this material on whether they're age appropriate or not, and they are in consultation with parents and guardians on an ongoing basis.
And what was the consultation that you just referenced? You seem to know about that. Tell me what consultation.
Well, that's a statement, as you know, from the local government management agency, and I'm sure that parents are very good at expressing their views to the LGMA rather than to librarians who are going about their daily work.
Yeah, we've been actually silenced by many of the agencies who are meant to protect children. We're in the process of doing Freedom of Information Act requests to get the minutes from those meetings as well as signatures on the books that they were vetted, apparently. We have been dismissed by the county council. Parents going in to file a complaint against the books have been dismissed and labelled such things as far-right Nazi book burners, when we're not suggesting we ban books or burn books. We just want them moved to the adult section. We've been called homophobic when many of these books are actually heterosexual books. It's simply the content, so we don't accept those labels. The Children's Ombudsman dismissed it and said it didn't really harm a child. So my question is actually going to be to the insurance company, that's our next letter,
right.
The insurance company of these libraries. So I'm a 12-year-old girl, and I go in the library and I pull out the book that teaches me how to use Grindr, a dating app for age 18. In the age 12 book, it teaches me how to use the dating app. I put my photo, it tells people my location, and then I go meet an adult. But
children want this information, and we know from our own childhoods that children ended up pregnant, unwanted pregnancies.
You didn't let me finish the risk assessment. I'm just talking about the risk. Please just give me the respect to finishing my sentence, please. So a child goes on the dating app, uploads a photo, meets an age 25-year-old man, and gets raped from something she learned in that library book. Who's accountable?
Okay.
Who's accountable for that? Is the risk assessment done on these books? If my child goes in...
the risk assessment is done because they're chosen by people with expertise, librarians who understand an awful lot about this, and they also understand an awful lot of how sex was treated in this country when we didn't talk about it to our children. We wanted to wrap them up in cotton wool.
And talking about sex is okay. I'm not disagreeing, and I've been very clear that sex education is
some
different.
sex, you say. Some sex. Others you call disgusting fetishes.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's an opinion. That's an opinion.
If you want your 12-year-old daughter to learn about fisting and blowjobs, that's a problem.
Yeah, well, they will, one way or another. That's the point.
And let's talk about the internet, because you mentioned that. I have views on that as well.
Well, they're friends. They don't have to go on the internet.
Oh, internet is friends, I know. Somebody said to me on one of the radios as I was talking to you, they said, well, sure, they're going to see it on the internet anyway. We might as well let them see libraries. However, the Library Acts, as well as the Children First and the EU and United Nations Act, does not allow this material in front of children's eyes. So to say that they're going to see it in the internet anyway, show them in the library, that to me is like saying your kid is going to go to the disco Saturday night and they might do drugs, so you might as well give them a little line of coke at home. I mean, that argument.
Or you might talk to them about it and discuss the pros and cons and then see if they make the right decision. Jana, I've run out of time. I have to leave it there. Thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for contacting us. That's Jana London, who's campaigning against these library books. A lot of text into us as well, but our time has run out, as I say. For today's programme, Maggie McGuire Research, Chris Murray was in the control tower. I'm Michael. God willing, we'll see you for our next programme tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. right here on LMFM. Good morning. Bye-bye.
The Michael Reade Show podcast. Tune in weekdays from 9 on LMFM. To contact us, email now, michael@lmfm.ie.
The world is getting a little more. But maybe more could mean something else. More means more proactive green energy solutions. More means more wind turbines and more recycling. More means more biodiversity and more energy storage. More means more hydrogen and more solar farms, because more clean energy means more efficient living, means more thriving communities, means more energy autonomy. That's why we're more than Mona. Learn more at morethanmona.ie. Board Namona.